Minutes.
Okay, you're ready to go.
All right, calling this meeting to order. We'd like to give a welcome to our new commissioner. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, any visitor comments?
The one online.
Nobody online?
Paul, do you have something to say?
Who's this visitor?
Nobody online today, huh? I'm a witness. I always see his name up there online.
Usually.
But it's a black screen.
I apologize, Paul.
It is a black screen that says Paul.
All right, if we have no visitors,
Okay, because I was gonna say green.
Oh, sorry, I didn't move it.
if there's no visitor comments, we can move on to approval of the minutes.
There you go.
I would look at it.
Does anyone have any comments or discussion for last month's meeting minutes?
I have another one. The omission of, when I said about the resolution for code of conduct. They said that, there was no, they were asking us to collaborate, with people during our deliberations and all that. Whereas I said it was hypocritical of them when they didn't allow us to collaborate on the resolution. Like I said last time.
What? Repeat that. On which part?
Well, I was pointing out that in the resolution, it says that we're supposed to collaborate with other people during our, what we do. And then in the, when I asked at the meeting of regular session, if we could collaborate on it. And they didn't allow us to it, so I said it's kind of hypocritical of them to have us collaborate when they won't collaborate themselves.
That's not in the minutes?
It is,
Was it in the minutes?
I don't see that it's here in the minutes.
Is that what you're saying you wanted in the minutes?
Yeah, that was, I said that. Something to that,
Okay. Do you want that sentence in the minutes?
something to that effect. Yeah.
Any other comments, discussion for the minutes? Okay,
I make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
Second.
Sorry.
You seconded. Go ahead.
No, Howard.
okay, all in favor of approval of minutes? Any opposed? All right, minutes have been approved. Okay, so we will be moving on to new business. The main subject of our meeting today will be the parks fees and special use permits. And so that is the bulk of our packet. Did everyone get a chance to review this? First read, kind of a brief through.
And even, was it in our packet?
Mhm.
I just filled them out recently, so I have pretty good,
Great.
little experience with it. Definitely the new.
Was it in this packet?
The new process is a lot better than what it was.
Yeah. Great. I'd like to go through page by page, a few things I'm sure we can kind of read through faster than others. And then if we have some discussions, we can go through that, and I'll make notes of anything that we would like to discuss further, maybe at another meeting. I don't know that we'll get through all of this today. And depending on the conversation, we may have to table some of the conversation to another meeting for specific items. I'm okay with that. My goal is to be out of here by 6 p.m. for the sake of everyone's time. And so we'd like to keep the discussion short and to the point if we can, okay? The first page here is the universal fee schedule. Anyone have any comments, discussion on any of the fees?
Point of clarification, that is just the page. On the universal fee schedule, fee schedule, which is available on the city's website, is every fee pertaining to the city overall. So it could be an engineering fee, it could be, make everything. So I only included the ones that pertains to city parks.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on here that references the BMX park or any of that facility, but. It's pretty. You know, we paid a fee, but it was. Yeah, it was on here, but.
If it's not here, it's free. Yeah, because would it be, 'cause it's not one of the field areas, it would be. Do we have,
Cause we've done one for both the skate park and the BMX track. It's in IIT. And whatever.
There's areas 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, what that means. I don't know if that's.
I don't either, Paul.
and those are, do we have maps that delineate like area 1, area 2 through 4 on these parks?
So, 1, 2, and 4, so 1 is the Veterans Pavilion. Is the gazebo that's on your right when you first come in. 2 is the newer one on the other side of the Veterans Plaza, and 4 is the covered area by the
Play structure?
play structure.
Okay. Do we have a location specification for the BMX?
No, because people usually don't rent, citizens usually don't rent
Okay,
that.
okay, and when you did rent it, was there a fee that was similar to these in place?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Really, my goal is to make sure that that we feel that these are appropriate, that they're doing the purpose of serving our parks and that they, because we have a lot of discussions that we don't have enough or proper funding to maintain or improve our parks. And so part of that comes down to, this is our revenue, right? These, yeah, and so this is really part of my goal in looking over this, to make sure that we're charging appropriate amounts for the appropriate locations and that we're utilizing those funds to best serve our community and our park.
So I got a question. The docking warranty fee is $15. Now, is that on the other side of 1 2 to the dock in Sand Island?
Sand Island is leased out to.
The dock is?
No, I'm sorry, I thought you said Sand Island.
No, the
The
dock.
dogs at Sand
It's
Island.
on,
Yeah, we took a trip up there one time and they had like a owner box and
so they got,
when they opened it up, they got $3.
another $3.
So,
We don't police Sand Island because it's leased.
right, well, I was talking about the
dock.
dock and that more on the dock.
On the dock,
Yes.
that is, it now has a kiosk. So it's ran by the harbor master. I believe. But that,
Basically just like what the docks are out here.
Right, but I'm saying, so who's enforcing this fee? Who'd say I just don't pull up and dock my boat for the night and then take off in the morning?
Does our harbor master have his own boat or not? Who knows? That answers your question.
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up during action items about Sand Island.
Yeah.
Brian Hendrickson,
Yeah.
because they're building cabins over there.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'd still like to see Brian come in and talk to us.
Yes,
I mean, I think that's something that needs to happen. So we just know what's going on,
yeah.
but I know
They were putting a disc golf course or some holes over there also.
I don't know, it'd be nice to have Brian come and talk to us. It'd also be,
Any of that money though anyway.
pardon,
We don't see any of that money anyway.
it'd be nice to see how much the city gets per campsite and what his plans are for, you know, the cabins and other facilities that he has there.
I believe according to our lease, we just get 10% of their earnings, if I remember correctly.
And does that go into just general fund?
So is that 10, yeah, is it 10% after, you know, taxes, is, you know, you know what I mean, it could get pretty complicated, I would think. Could get complicated,
And
but I think it would really be nice if we had a rundown on what was happening in
Yeah.
Sand
what
Island.
did you say, is Brian?
I think it's Brian Hendrickson.
It's Brad, actually.
Brad Hendrickson. Brad Hendrickson.
and he also controls the docks down here.
Okay,
He
so,
is St. Helens Marina, yes.
okay, great,
You know what
so,
I'm saying, Brad.
can we send out,
Talking about the public docks here. Yeah,
can we send out an invitation for him to join us at the next meeting and put him on as an agenda item? I'll add that.
See a lot of that when we come back
Request,
at parks.
but Are we able to send him an email? Item,
Seems like the logical place where,
Where I asked when we were over there, and The answer was, oh, hush, hush.
Okay, so then, yeah, so let's invite him to our next meeting.
We could get that information from John Walsh. You'd have that info.
Would that be okay for you?
Right,
Very-
what does that mean?
Like, yeah, we brought this up. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. All right,
When we went over there on that filter, we had a big discussion about it and
so let's bring your questions. We'll invite him to the next meeting and then we can have a good healthy discussion with him. Perfect. Okay, so do you guys have any questions, concerns, or alterations that you'd like to see on this particular fee schedule that we see here?
I think it should be clarified that for the, like, let's say McCormick Park, area 2 through 4, $15 per 3-hour session.
Mhm.
Somebody could read that and say, all three of them are $15 rather than individual.
That's clarified on the website when they make the reservation.
Okay, so it's for each area. Okay, and do you guys feel that these fees are appropriate in amount?
I have no way of judging that, because I don't know.
Okay, and we can always come back to it, and we can revisit any of this at another meeting as well. If you guys feel like, hey, I pondered this, can we rediscuss? I don't want this to be like a one and done conversation if we don't feel that it suits our needs. I would love to revisit that as appropriate. Okay, so let's move on then to permit required. And this just really states that it's unlawful for anyone to promote, conduct, or cause an assembly if they expect there to be more than 50 people there without obtaining a permit. You guys feel that that's appropriate?
Yeah.
50 people,
So if I have 49, I speak to it.
not according to the code.
I don't believe it's gonna be
You don't
over 50.
So if I have 49, wherever it's like. I think that should be a little lower.
I agree, actually, I think it would be appropriate to be 25.
I could go with that.
So these next 6 pages is a copy of the city ordinance.
The city ordinance, and we can make
And
recommendations.
that's available online as well.
Okay, perfect.
I'm just saying, well, like, if I'm throwing a birthday party and I have 25 people, I could buy a permit.
Yeah, so it's appropriate for us to discuss and then make suggestions.
If you wanted to do
I think
it,
it's
city
a good
ordinance.
number.
Perfect.
My question would be is how would that pertain to if we had 25 people show up to a work party in the park? Would that mean that we should be having to get a permit?
Well, in the next, in 80804, it says that any activity of a municipal corporation or governmental agency, so if we're acting on behalf of the city,
Okay,
then that would make it exempt. But say we have a birthday party that's 30 to 40 to 50 people, that's quite a large amount of
Little
people.
Timmy invites his whole class.
Yeah,
uh-huh,
And of course, the parents are there with little Timmy, friends, and
uh-huh.
When you're asking about, 25 to 50 people, I'm not sure with the permit, if if you do it out through this, they're asking for, you have to have, sanitation, you'll have to have, be indemnified. There's a lot of stuff, by switching the numbers, so.
Mhm.
It could, it's not just $15, it could be, quite a bit of money.
so we
oh,
can,
we just talked about changing the number, not the price.
well, we
Yeah,
can
but-
take notes now as well, and then as we go through and see how that would affect, and we may change our mind later on in the discussion. So if you'd like, I can just go ahead and take notes, and then if we want to make any official recommendations to city council, we can do that a little bit later. Would that be?
I'm kind of with Jake there. That seems like a big number,
Mhm.
but on the other hand, if it changes a lot of things, it makes it real difficult and expensive. We're here to, to serve the citizens of St. Helens, not to, get in their pockets.
Right, absolutely. But what I would like to see too is making sure that we have ample stock of toilet paper, that we have ample stock of,
Let's
doggy.
say you wanna go to the park, let's say you wanna go to the park and there's a birthday party, and there's 25 kids there. And all the presents, they filled up all the garbage cans with their, wrappers and plates and everything. Now you wanna throw something away, there's no room for you to throw anything away.
Correct.
All of our parks just don't have garbage.
Now you want it out.
Yeah.
So I'll
It's
make.
a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think that these are.
I'll say that, it is a lot of people, but it could make it more complicated.
So I'm gonna make notes and then we can go back and make official decisions or have further discussion later. Does that work?
Okay.
Okay, great. So, is in regards to permit required, we will discuss changing from 50 to say 25 or 30 if you guys think.
I was gonna say something between 30 and 40.
Yeah,
25, 30.
Yeah.
Like 30 to 40. 50's a lot.
okay.
50's too many, 25 is too little.
All right, so as far as exemptions go, so this says that that the permits would not be required for any regular, organized, and supervised school district activity or program that takes place on school property. Any activity of a municipal corporation or governmental agency. And recognized boating and yachting organization activities as specified in chapter 8. The St. Helens Municipal Code. Now, I had questions in regards to the any activity of a municipal corporation. And so could you clarify for us what constitutes specifically municipal corporations that are allowed exemption to the fee schedules?
I'm assuming that's within the city. Cause I know when like we had Citizens Day,
Mhm.
we didn't charge
Mhm.
ourselves
Right.
the fee.
Mhm.
That's the only time that I've ran across that sort of exemption.
Okay. What about specifically E2C Corporation? The tourists, say for things like Halloween Town, and the other events.
Halloween Town also.
Okay.
They fall under the same thing that they don't have.
They're. I mean, they are, but they aren't the city,
Mhm.
you know, they're contracted by the city, so. I was told that they were also waived. Please.
Okay. And so that is something that I would like to bring up specifically, particularly because the volume of usage, the volume of personage that comes through for those events has had a repeated detrimental effect on our city parks. And it's been a repeat conversation of this commission where we've had complaints regarding the damage done and the lack of funds and assistance to repair that damage. And so I would like to hear your guys' thoughts on that particular item.
And I'd just like to regress back to government agency. You know, I'm not an attorney here, but if I look at government agency, I'm thinking about city, county, state, federal. You know, let's say a state organization wanted to come in and throw a retirement party or something like that.
Mhm.
Or some federal agency wanted to do something, you know. I don't know, I mean, that's just something that we maybe should discuss.
Yeah, the terminology
how
is pretty
people-
broad, so I mean,
I
anybody.
agree.
You know, I mean, I'm not saying we should or shouldn't charge them, but if it was, you know, a state agency or a federal agency. Maybe they should be charged.
I agree. I also think something that I was pondering would be appropriate is any event where they're expecting either a multi-day use versus a single day use, right? Things like Citizens Day in the park is a single day. It's limited in the amount of persons that can come. It's limited in the amount of foot traffic and damage and garbage, right? Versus certain events that last multiple days, weeks at a time, or multiple weekends that land consecutively. And I think that the impact from those high volume consecutive events causes more detriment to the parks than say the single, you know, kind of isolated events such as Citizens Day.
I don't really get in trouble, but I really think that there needs to be some type of a number out there where an event that could draw 1,000 or 2,000 people over a certain period of time. That, I don't know if I want to say an environmental impact statement, but there should be a little bit of oversight that our group should know about what the plans are, because when you have something that can draw 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people there are impacts. And we just need to be able to plan for them if we're gonna have that type of foot traffic, not be a surprise
I agree.
on what it is, you know.
I agree. And so, so for the purpose of this initial discussion, I'd like to consider, and you guys can think about this, and again, we can discuss it later and make more official recommendations, possibly striking number 2.
I think we should try 3 also.
Yeah, I don't
Why
have.
didn't
an-
the
I don't
vote
have
in
an-
the organization get that?
Well, we read the next thing.
No, it's I could say why it is, but then I'll get in trouble.
Speak freely here.
Well, we had commissioners on it at the time on the yacht club.
Uh,
So
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's appropriate too. So we can consider here on 808-040.
it's ridiculous that they get exempt. They're rich, they can afford it. You can afford it, you can afford $15.
Striking 2 and 3.
I'm a little excited about it.
Everything's pretty critical there.
Yes, there's a lot that goes into it with the Sixth Street and bringing it, we got our waterfront properties.
All right, let's move on, unless you guys have any other discussion, right now for that particular part. No? Okay, so permit applications. In the applicant, in the first spot, it says the applicant for a public assembly permit shall provide the information required in the city's public assembly permit application at least 30 days prior to the date of the permit, that is requested to be effective. The application must be signed by the applicant, include all necessary attachments, and include the non-refundable permit application fee as set forth by resolution of the city council. It specifically states incomplete applications shall not be processed. And I would like to discuss that, considering some comments that I've heard from commissioners in past meetings where, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I have not viewed any of the submitted applications. But anything that is filled out either NA or unsure, specifically regarding the amount of people that may participate, I consider things like that to be an incomplete part of the application, since these line items are specific and required. And so,
I agree.
well,
there may be some questions that are in A.
okay,
That's what I was thinking.
so as we go through, I'd like you guys to keep that in mind and see if there's anything in like specifically that we can address to see if NA is appropriate or not, because I think some things regarding like the estimated amount of people that should not be left blank, especially if we're looking at fees associated with them.
Okay, maybe I look at not applicable different than you do, because where it says, how many people do you estimate to be there? Well, that's applicable. You need to know how many people are there. Not applicable means that
It doesn't apply.
it doesn't really apply to the thing. So,
I mean, you need to estimate high.
Right,
Oh, I, that's.
Still, we
people.
still get that as not applicable, such as we have, December, we have it's not really a parade, it's just a route that a charity is taking to pick up donations.
Mhm.
So they're stopping by people's houses.
Mhm.
So there is an NA for estimated people because no one is coming to this event.
Right, okay,
There's just people,
Mhm.
they're stopping by people's houses on a certain route.
okay,
So they're not closing roads. There is no one
okay,
coming to the event. So there are many instances where NA is applicable.
okay.
So what happens when it's?
If serving food,
it's like,
you may have.
Serving process, like, notified, not being processed.
Sure,
yeah, so if they turn in a application packet to me. And the information is not there, then I communicate with them
Okay.
what is missing, and
Okay.
it doesn't get processed until it's finished.
so you're monitoring all these
I
permits then.
I am the special permit person.
right.
What happens if they turn it in the day before it's due?
Right.
Right, so, so I'd like to keep that in mind as we're moving through and find out what information,
So, Melissa, real quick, so when they pick one up, they get it from you?
It's available online, they can play it out, or I have made it available to where they can fill it up digitally. And then they can send it to me via email, they can stop by my office and I can print it out for them, however it works for them.
Well, what I was just wondering is that, do people know that that's the case? You know what I mean?
Yes, so when they go to make a reservation online for a park, it says right in there that, hey, if your event is over 50 people. And, you know, or you're gonna be stopping traffic, then here's what you need, and it's right to the special use permit.
Okay,
Not to mention, I get notices for every single reservation in the park. And if I see that they just reserved McCormick for their people, I contact them. Wow.
awesome.
And
Thank
we
you.
appreciate everything that you do.
Happy question.
All right,
Oh, happy to answer them.
and so the next line talks about, prior to submitting their permit application, they require documents satisfactory, and making sure that satisfactory arrangements have been made. And that permits will not be approved unless, they have supplied all of the required documentation. And then number 3 is, providing supplemental information as requested, and so, Melissa's been great for that. Standards for issuance. And so, this, a public assembly permit application may be reviewed and issued by the city administrator after finding by him that the applicant has, complied with the standards for issuance enumerated in this section. So this goes over the fire protection standards and medical services. This. Devices and equipment available at, in, or near structures where more than 10 persons may congregate during the event. If an applicant has plans for medical services availability, to make sure that those are available. The fire chief may require that they simply have an ambulance and first aid stations, when they deem appropriate. I think all that is great. Regarding public safety, the applicant must submit written plans for public safety at the assembly to the chief of police for his approval. The chief of police shall determine the number of traffic control and crowd control personnel reasonably necessary to protect the health, peace, safety, and welfare of the public, and shall notify the applicant of his determination. The applicant shall contract or otherwise provide traffic control and crowd control personnel to meet the requirements set by the chief. And then it has rules for the public safety personnel that they have to meet. And then they have to wear, appropriate uniforms. Do you guys have any questions, concerns regarding we have a great CERT team? Yeah. Yeah, I think all that's really great. In regard to that, the only comment I have is last year, particularly and I don't know if this is park related or not, but the parade that took place during Halloween in town, by the time it got downtown, it was so enclosed in, it became highly unsafe. And so, do you guys know when they do the permits for the parades, does that have anything to do with us, or is that just through the city separately? All permits go through this?
In city limits.
And so that is something that I would like to consider in regards to safety, is having, when they're coming in and they're bottlenecking to like a highly populated area, right? Especially during Halloween town, there's so many people on foot in this area that I considered it unsafe to have that many children right in the vehicle traffic without physical barriers. And so I would like to recommend specifically for the parades that end at a location with events still going on, that we consider in-street barrier protection that allows for ample vehicle passage space.
idea, kind of on the same idea, it was very amazing this year, somebody said it was probably more because of the construction. But on top of the hill, Nob Hill, like especially the 4th of July. We'll have so many people that are parking on the streets up there. This year, they actually closed off going up the hill into 4th and that whole neighborhood, you had to say. You knew somebody up there, you're going to a party on somebody's street rather than just letting everybody go up on top of the hill. Block up all the streets, and I'm so concerned about fire up there. Because if you have parking on both sides of the streets, it's one lane of traffic on the major detour up there. How with the police letting illegal fireworks go on that are going up 200 feet in the air? If they start a fire, how are we gonna get the fire department up there? This year was so beautiful that you could get a fire truck up there. Most years in that area, you would never get any type of emergency service if a fire started up there.
Winners find ways, Howard.
Well, they said you'd be surprised how many vehicles a fire truck can move, but when you're talking 10, 15, 20, 30 cars,
Right.
I'm sorry, minutes count.
Mhm.
And if it's your neighborhood, you don't want to see it burn.
Right.
You want to make sure that the fire department would always have an adequate street
Mhm.
to be able to get to your neighborhood,
Absolutely.
especially during a special event. So I think that's something really important that we need to do. I mean, we were just so relieved this year of the way that it was controlled up there.
Great.
I mean, compliments to whoever decided to do it this way. I hope they do it in the future.
It's a park in front of my house too. I just moved my garbage cans and everything out that day, walk everything.
2%
Get there.
That way.
Park in the street there and in the street.
You know, I'm trying to push people back myself. It was just so unsafe. And then the parade couldn't even continue for a while and it got really clogged up because the visitors just closed right in and there's small children running right up in front of, in front of the vehicles. It really was not safe and.
Well, I think that's something that's supposed to be addressed in the application, but the application is providing adequate means of access for emergency vehicles or personnel that need to get to whatever event or wherever you're putting it on at. So that's what we have to drop like a map, what our plan is. So and I think that's true for probably anybody that reflects like that.
Heard that for up on top of Mount Hill, we're trying to be gone, Halloween town now. And it's so congested up there that, well, again, you would never get any emergency equipment into the neighborhood. Because but that's
That doesn't really fall, to me, that doesn't really fall under the,
parks.
or a permit, that's a city.
Well, that's under the permit, if you're hosting a big event.
Yeah,
you
but
should
it's
make sure that.
You can't control where they.
Can't control.
Right.
It's like,
But if you're bringing the people into the community, then you should be having adequate. Things put in place to make sure that emergency services can still get.
I just know, I know the 4th of July is big here, and so it's packed all the way up to the Red Apple.
Mhm.
Okay,
Although there's cars parked anywhere they can from here up there.
Right.
but there's still no excuse for people not to be able to get emergency services to their house.
It's like
They had a fire out there this year.
like we were saying, though, is you can't control where they park.
It's right, it's free city parking.
They're parking on a public street.
Yeah.
But that's
Park
part
on a
of
private drive.
having a big event is planning for people to get in and out of your community.
Let's see if there's further dialogue on that and we can visit that then. Okay, so do you guys have,
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the fire chief and the police chief, it seems pretty ambiguous, their criteria. It'd be nice to see some type of criteria what they're looking for when they're for these applicants. Rather than, just kind of. They could, say no on there. Without really giving adequate reason, they're not able to address that.
Police activity and fire, once somebody submits a permit.
I'm sorry, say that again.
how do you coordinate with the police and the fire in regards to,
We send the permit to them.
Okay.
They look it over, they decide whether they have proof of it,
okay,
or they want to approve it or deny it.
okay. And do they have set guidelines or set policies in place that they,
If they do, we don't question how they do their job.
no worries. Okay. All right, Any other questions, up to, we've made it down to 3 of the sanitary facilities. Any questions regarding the safety we were discussing? No. Okay, and I did make a note
I mean,
regarding.
it's a safety issue and there's one of the exam there, St. Helens doesn't have an emergency room. That's another issue.
A whole other issue.
So you look for the event and then, yeah, we've had kids get hurt at the track and parents not very happy that they've got to drive their kid all the way to Portland. They don't really do anything that's urgent care, just, it's like if you got the cold or you need a vaccine or something, they don't take care of nothing there. But anyways, I.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, they talked about the hospital, they tried to get here once. And if you would have had a heart attack, you'd still go to Portland. If you had a critical thing, you would still go to Portland or Long Beach also.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know if it's something that maybe needs to be addressed, but like we've had, at the fire department, we have kind of helped out before, certain incidents, so it's not. You know, it's an issue, if you have an event here or you host something, if somebody gets hurt seriously, we have no way to take care for anybody here locally, they've got to be. Life flight or helicopter to Portland or.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, they do have doctors there.
okay, all right, so let's move on to sanitary facilities. And so this one, says that the applicant must submit a sketch of the assembly location, detailed information showing the type, number, and location of proposed location of all toilets, washing facilities, water supplies facilities, food preparation, and food service facilities. The city administrator then reviews, and make sure that the minimum requirements have been met. The applicant must provide the following, containers for refuse and solid waste storage at a minimum ratio of 1 30-gallon container for solid waste disposal for each 16 persons or fraction thereof anticipated, or 1 cubic yard of container capacity for each 125 persons or fraction thereof anticipated. So it is the responsibility of the persons with the applicant in order to supply their own receptacles.
But if you have 50 people, 49 people. you
But
don't
exactly.
have to Get a permit, you don't have to do this.
Exactly, which is why I think that's really appropriate to discuss then
Yeah,
that
here it says 16 people, and now you're saying you have 49, you're not gonna permit.
for each of 16 people. So you're looking at multiple receptacles regardless, right? And so, yeah, that's why I think,
One of the questions that I would have that came up is the permit application for a special use permit, does that trigger somebody to unlock the restrooms so that the restrooms in the park are open? For people to use, or is that something you just have to request?
Question.
Every week I send the events that are going on in the park, including special permits to park facilities. So they know what's going on, how many people, what's going on, and all the bathrooms are on timers, so they adjust the timers accordingly.
Because the none of the restrooms were unlocked for our event, so that was why I was asking. I didn't know if it was something that. There's some, like a box that's supposed to be on here that we specifically check that, yes, we will need use of the restroom, even though we had a porta potty.
Right.
For the.
No, they knew you were having your event. It might have sometimes because it is a computer mechanism, it might have malfunctioned for your event, but no, they know everything that goes on.
Okay.
The other one,
No, I mean, no,
the other one would be that I,
there was something that maybe I needed to update an application or something, and.
Every week I send them what's going on in the.
Because I know that McCormick has 2 restrooms, and the one that's in the main area is always open. It seems like the one that's usually locked is by the skate park.
The softball field.
The softball, that was always locked. I don't know.
no, I'm not gonna say where, but I did see, one of the good reasons. The containers for refuse, and I did see at one point a while ago, a conditional use permit. Where when it did list the number of people, it said NA. How would you know how many garbage cans? Nobody's gonna have that inkling if the
exactly.
number of people is NA. How do you have the city or whoever planned for it?
And that's why I think
They-
some particular situations, like she was mentioning the route, food distributions or that kind of stuff, okay, it may be appropriate for NA to be an answer. But when we're talking about large events that are taking place in one location, I don't consider that an appropriate time to have NA be an answer to some of those questions, which is why I'd like to review that. I agree 100%.
Part of the fee for the garbage cans is it's thrown the garbage away, right? So you estimate how you get 2 garbage cans, not enough people show up, you're gonna get charged for 1, because you only put garbage one.
Well, I thought the application, I believe is you're supposed to carry your own out, and that's what. The city doesn't provide extra garbage cans just
Right.
because we have an event.
But you are required to provide
We're
those.
required to provide it, either we.
So then you
Well,
bring
that's
it,
it, have them
you
drop
haul
off.
them out, you know.
Cause the city's always cutting back on the number of garbage cans.
Or like, everybody might, let's say I'm throwing a party and I think, okay, 30 people are gonna show up, I'll bring 2 garbage cans.
Mhm,
Only 16 show up. Oh, darn, I brought an extra garbage can, just haul it home.
mhm.
Yeah, maybe there could be some signage or be something in that permitting process that make people aware that, hey, please, if you can, carry your own garbage out or something.
Yeah, there.
Anyway.
Okay, and then this one says that there should be 1 permanent or chemical toilet for each 115 persons or a fraction thereof anticipated. And that, do you guys feel that that's appropriate?
It's a lot of people.
I agree.
Online.
And so,
It's at the state park, 70 campgrounds, and there's.
do you know how they come up with
Sit
these
downstream.
specifics on
The city ordinance was before my time, you probably want to check at the sanitation plan within the permit for more specification. That was something that we came up with.
Okay, perfect. So then let's look at, this is number 3. So we can revisit A and B on these at another time. Because yeah, I think that's something that we should look into a little bit more. And then if food is to be sold at the event, someone overseeing the sale of food must have a food handler's permit. If it's purchased from a caterer supply, the caterer must have their food handler's permit, et cetera, et cetera. All that's really appropriate, I think. And then the approval given by the city administrator may indicate the number, type, and location of toilets, washing, and water supply facilities when appropriate. All documents and approvals mentioned here shall be submitted within the application. Moving on to insurance. So the applicant must submit proof of insurance with the application for approval. The insurance policy shall name the city, its officers, employees, and agents as additional insured parties, and the policy shall contain liability insurance coverage in the amount of $1 million. The insurance policy shall protect against loss from liability on account of bodily injury and property damage arising from the event. So this is one of those points where if we decrease the number of people, that this may be, this may come up as like, well, I only have 25 people. I don't want to get an insurance policy for $1 million if I only have 25 people. And so in this particular case, I thought it might be appropriate to then say, okay, well, then we can exempt the insurance requirement for say under 50 people, right? So now we're talking about those big birthday parties that are 25 to 30 people, or 25 to 50 people. We want them to have extra sanitation. We want them to have, the extra requirements in place. But insurance, acquiring insurance for such a small event might be kind of inappropriate, or they might not have the financial ability to do so. And so this is a point that I wanted to discuss and get your guys' take on that.
But
Well, I mean, with
still get a lot of damage.
with finances, like with in Portaloos and that, I mean, I think it'd probably be about the same.
Where do you get $1 million insurance policy?
I was gonna ask Melissa, you require them to do it, so what does a typical $1 million
$100.
Yeah,
cost for
$200 for like my boat, I have to identify,
for one event?
Yeah,
$200 for one
a
event.
1-day event, if you're not, as long as you're not selling alcohol or.
The alcohol that goes up.
Yeah, obviously. But I don't know I don't know that, like I say, the legality of all this ordinance or whatever, but
Right.
it's kind of weird that you would exempt that, because to me, that's kind of the whole. basis of requiring somebody to get a permit is to provide insurance. So if you're just asking them to get a permit and then you're exempting them from insurance, it kind of seems like a moot point, sort of. But I don't, just,
We're talking about 50 people. Are we talking about 30 people, you know?
I'm a little confused whether you're talking about like citizens' birthday parties or corporate type events where people.
Will be
Oh.
anybody, right, anybody that are hosting events.
If you have a birthday party where you have 50 people, I could see you have to have insurance for that.
I can see though, if you have a birthday party, if I'm 25 people have insurance for it. Maybe make it less policy, maybe make it 500,000.
The million's pretty standard from everything that I've participated in the past, and so I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but. Regarding like vendor fairs, all that kind of stuff that I've participated in the past, that's pretty standard. And I don't even know if they make them smaller than that, as like a standard. But that amount does not seem outlandish to me at all. That's just one of those discussion items where I can see that lowering the amount of people for the permitting would affect that. So as far as temporary buildings or structures, the applicant shall submit plans approved by the planning department and or building department, whichever is applicable when any type of structure is required. So preliminary approval may be granted by the planning department and or building department structures upon specific plans proposed and submitted by the applicant. All such structure shall be in existence 5 or more days before the assembly of which an application is submitted and shall be subject to inspection by this building department. Should the actual structure fail to meet the standards approved in the proposed plan, such preliminary approval shall be withdrawn and all permits granted subject to such approval shall be withdrawn. And we're not talking about like pop-up tents and things like that, right? We're just talking about
Wooden stages.
Okay.
Which.
right, super rare occurrences. So that all sounds pretty standard and okay. You guys have any questions or comments? Okay, parking facilities. So the applicant shall provide the chief of police with a scale drawing showing that adequate parking facilities have been made available within or adjacent to the location for which the permit is requested. Such parking facilities shall provide parking space for 1 vehicle for every 4 persons expected or reasonably expected to attend said event. If buses are to be used to transport the public to the assembly, it shall be shown that public parking as described above is available at any site within the city from which buses are scheduled to pick up persons to transport them to the assembly. Do you guys have any discussion on that, since we were talking about parking earlier?
Well, I mean, that raises really interesting questions. I don't know which way to go on that, but it raises some very interesting questions, actually, but.
I have a comment
Mhm.
or question. I know that people go to Sand Island, they have a parking shuttle. That takes them, to their car. So I'd like to, that's something we can bring up when Brad, right?
Brad,
Brad Hendrickson.
A parking shuttle from where?
Well, people who go to Sand Island
To
to
take
camp,
the shuttle. Where do they park?
well, there's a parking van shuttle. That drives them from where they park their car back to the
to the marina.
Yeah, okay.
Do they, where, do they have a designated parking area?
That's what I was,
That's what
That's
you wanna know?
That's what
Okay,
we got.
gotcha.
yeah, where do they park? I'm just, since we're talking about parking, I'm
Yeah.
just curious about that.
So let's make a note of that, so we can ask Brad.
Okay.
When he comes. All right.
You may not want to come. Yeah, I'm not against what's happening in Sand Island.
No, but healthy conversations is appropriate, and us as the Parks and Trails Commission, I think it's really appropriate to at least gain an understanding of that, since it falls under our jurisdiction. I don't think it's inappropriate at all, and hopefully he feels comfortable to come, and as long as we're kind and respectful, it should be good.
He's doing a service.
I agree. I think it's fantastic. All right, so do you guys have any other, any other questions, comments, discussion, anything that you would like to see clarified here? It's pretty clear verbiage. It shows that they're at least taking into consideration parking. Okay, onto multiple applicants, so no public assembly permit application for the same time and location will be granted if an application has already been received for that date and location unless multiple applicants can reasonably be accommodated. And that's just ensuring that each and everybody gets their space and time.
Going back just a second with the parking.
Yeah.
Would it be, you think it'd be appropriate to actually have the police review the parking plan so they can have the emergency vehicles, get them access and that type of stuff?
Do the police review the parking plan?
Everybody that signs off on it reviews every part of everything.
Okay,
Okay.
so they review all
Entire-
entire application.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Once again, I saw, not
So
sure,
yes, they do.
copy of a permit order when it would have police signed off on this, it said NA.
Which one are you talking about?
The H word,
Halloween Town.
Oh, well,
that's,
that was
CH word.
I don't wanna get into trouble.
That
with
is
that.
what is-
ethics.
not a usual permit process.
Okay, and so since it's not a usual permit process, can you clarify that for me?
Today,
When a permit usually comes in, to give a lot more details.
Okay,
That one, is given more grace.
and why is that?
cause it brings a lot of money to the city.
It's above my pay grade.
So that is something
Well, whose pay,
that.
whose pay grade is it?
That's not, that's not what it's called. I agree.
Yeah, I know.
I appreciate you so much. I really do. But that is 100% one of the reasons why this conversation is required, because that's not appropriate to have one thing be exempt of all of these things that no other event or applications are exempt from. Specifically when it is so impactful to our community and to our parks. And so if we're going to hold all other persons, all other corporations, all other events to a standard, then that standard should be the same across the board. And if there is one specific entity, regardless of who it is, that is held outside of that, then that needs to be a discussion with the commission, with city council, and have everybody on board. And it needs to be a healthy conversation, not, you know, something that we can't talk about. There should be nothing in government that we can't healthily talk about, especially in regards to service to our community members and to our parks and to our public spaces. And so,
And I totally agree. When you talk about, fire protection.
Yeah.
Medical services. Public safety, sanitary facilities, insurance. Parking facilities. I think that those items should apply to everyone, because those are really safety issues.
It's legally obligated. Yeah.
So, I mean, it would seem to me like the city council would have to say, there's an ordinance that says, specifically that Halloween Town is exempt from, the things I just mentioned.
yeah,
And you have one of your commissions that don't even wanna talk about it because they're getting credit. There's a problem.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to even speak about it for that reason.
That's why.
Right.
There's a problem.
we should not be afraid to have these conversations, right?
Well, I don't think they should, I'm not against Halloween Town, not at all. I'm not against them going to our parks or anything else, but I think like you talked about fires, you talked about medical emergencies.
Talk about public safety in regards to kids possibly getting run over by the parade route. And I know that the parade itself was sponsored by a slightly different entity, but it all goes together. Damage to parks that we struggle to then maintain or repair throughout the year without assistance, those are big deals.
And I don't, in my opinion, that's not an undue burden.
Right,
I mean, that's not an undue burden to ask that to take place.
I agree.
And nobody's saying they're against Halloween Town.
No, very grateful for it, very thankful for it.
But they need to be treated equal to everybody else.
I agree.
But since they're a big moneymaker for the city,
Well,
we're gonna turn our.
but these things still should apply, in my
I agree, but that's the reason why they don't right now.
right.
And so then how do we go about changing that?
That's a whole.
Well, my issue, I mean, just be.
I mean, that's why they want the new code of ethics filed, so.
If the organization, if the Halloween Town organization. You know, has to meet these criteria. I don't think that that's gonna cut back on the profits that are made.
I don't think so. Oh, it's a,
They might have to, they might have to do things a little differently, but it shouldn't cut back on their profits.
Tourism director.
So maybe we have the tourism director come to one of our meetings and we talk to them and find out.
well, I think this is for me in my mind's eye, step one. Is reviewing what we have in place and how we implement it and whether or not we feel it
That's
appropriate.
why,
Absolutely, because we're finding out information that we didn't know before by asking these questions.
We did try to have a
Great,
discussion last year and people turned down on it.
well, we can try again, right? And we can do the right steps through the right channels with the right support, and this is the way. Right? This is the way.
In defense of the Halloween parade,
Yes.
that's why I said.
they came to the pre-event meeting.
Yes.
They hired their own private security company.
Mhm.
So they are doing absolutely every one of them.
I
They're
trust.
still in the approval process.
Yes, I trust, and I think that's great. And I would just really like to kind of add on that additional barrier.
Are separate. The
Yes.
parade is separate.
Yeah,
And
yes.
they are, they're hitting all their boxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last year, the year before, something where a kid fell off and got ran over.
What?
I recall something like that, maybe it was a while back, but.
There were some issues with kids like falling off some of the stone barrier.
No, and maybe it wasn't here, I just remember there was a parade where the kid fell off the car.
Fall off the
Yeah, yeah.
car.
Oh.
Goodness, I don't know anything about that. But no, I think but having those barriers in place specifically for the parade is, I think it's vital. And I understand that that those who put on the parade are a little bit different, completely different than the people who on Halloween, but. And I know that they're doing a great job too, and we're really thankful for all of that. So, okay. So we finished with multiple applicants. Hey, that's okay, I don't mind.
It should be disturbed.
It, again, healthy discourse, open communication.
Transparency.
Transparency, I'm all for
I
that.
agree, but I think we just did it with that.
That's one. None of it is out of like unkindness, it's all for the benefit.
There too.
All right, so let's talk about permit provisions and restrictions. So the hours of operation, no assembly shall be conducted in or upon public property during the time between 30 minutes after sunset on the first day and 30 minutes before sunrise on the next day unless otherwise specified in the permit. And I can see how this would be a little bit different for things like, well, even with Halloween Town, they end their permitting at like 4 or 5, right? Or do they close, as far as the permits go, that are like multiple day events? Since this,
Probably do they do tours at your park?
do they do,
Or-
So
What?
for usual permits that have.
Usually quiet and
Yes.
live.
It follows park rules, which is sunrise
Sunset.
and sundown.
okay,
But then you got people that straggle through.
Well, you can't stop it, those are just, that's. the
Right.
public. That's gonna
But
happen.
most events have time.
okay, perfect.
Cause I remember the Boy Scouts coming and asking us if they could have a Corey party every night. Like a sleepover camp out thing, and I don't know.
Okay, but it can be approved case by case,
That's what we thought and there's no.
so sorry. Try again. Intoxicating liquor, so no person sponsoring this assembly nor any person having control thereof shall permit anyone to bring intoxicating liquor into or upon the premises of the assembly. No permit intoxicating liquor to be consumed on the premises unless specifically allowed in the permit. If intoxicating liquor is to be sold at the assembly, the applicant must apply for and enter into a concession agreement with the city. So just no free alcohol. I think they have to have permits to sell for concession, right, like our little beer garden.
Yeah.
Stands, things like that. Disputes, when a dispute arises between the parties as to the number of persons anticipated to attend the assembly, the decision of the city administrator shall be final and controlling. And so does that mean specifically that the amount of people arrived is different than the amount on the application? Or can you clarify that statement for me?
I mean, I kind of see it as. City administrator has the word,
Okay,
where the only time I've really ran into that is where I had someone apply. Their application said 100 people.
yeah,
And then when they found out there had to be insurance, they're like, oh, no, never mind, it's 50. And it still needs insurance. They said, oh, no, never mind, it's gonna be 25. And that's where I had to bump it up to the city administrator to say, hey,
yeah,
we obviously have an issue with back. I mean, they literally backpedaled 3 different numbers. It was like 15 numbers.
yeah,
And so I had to bump that up to the city administrator to say, hey, you know, we need to possibly deny this person just because they're obviously just trying to weasel out of
right, the insurance.
doing the application, doing the permit, you know. Yeah, exactly. And so that was denial.
Okay,
So kind of, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what sounds like they're saying there, but yeah, it's confusing, but
He has complete power.
it's the infamous I'm
He's the
getting.
most powerful man in the city, even beyond Rick.
Yeah.
The city administrator.
so conditions, rules and regulations, the applicant, its agents and employees shall comply with all applicable federal, state, county and local laws, as well as with many conditions, rules and regulations, including this chapter of the public assembly application. So I think that's appropriate. So we are at an hour in, and so I would like to pause the conversation at this time. We've taken notes for discussion items that we've had, and I'd like to continue this conversation at the next meeting. I foresee this being a conversation that's gonna take us a couple of months to get through this. But I really appreciate the conversation and the detailed nature, the time that we're taking on this and.
Since I guess I'm considered a visitor here today, what? I'm a little confused at what, did I miss something in a previous meeting? Like, what are we reviewing this for? Is this because they've updated something here?
It's time. So since I've been on the commission, I've heard multiple conversations in regards to concerns that we don't have enough funds to do things that are necessary in the parks. There's been a lot of complaints regards to like usage and damage and things in the parks that we're not being reimbursed for. And that's a concern for the commission. And so I just thought it was an appropriate time to revisit what we have in place, make sure that it's working for the parks, and if not, make recommendations for changes, and then see how we can, best serve the community.
So it's just a standard review. I thought maybe there'd been something that's changed I know the process.
Yeah.
Has changed in terms of how I applied this year versus in years past, but I was thinking maybe city council need some changes.
No, it's just my thought on how to address some of the kind of repeat comments and complaints that I hear from the commission and the people in the public.
You just thought we'd stir a pot.
More or less.
That's all, I just spoke the mayor.
All right, so if you guys are okay, then we can pick up there at the 808. Sorry, meeting and move on. So are you guys okay with moving on? You did it? Thank you so much. Okay, so number 3, I'd like to discuss having a Parks and Trails Commission liaison schedule for City Council and the Planning Commission. And I know that we have a wonderful liaison from City Council that comes here to our meetings, and that's wonderful. But I'd like a little bit more involvement from the commissioners themselves to attend the meetings and then bring back any information that they think is important for us to discuss further.
What are their meetings though?
Organized planning.
So we all,
Just to-
Oh, so like a different commissions meeting?
Yeah, go visit it.
Yeah.
I did that one time with, I went to I think it was one year when they were separate.
Yeah.
Mhm. But I think it would be great for us to kind of come up with a schedule where say, hey, this month, I'm going to go and sit in on the city council or this planning commission. And then if I feel there's anything that we can bring back and share, then we can. Because I know that we get their agendas. I know that we have access to the meetings themselves, but we often comment that we don't have enough clear, transparent communication of what's going on. And so I think just having us be a little bit more involved individually and then bringing it back to the collective, I feel that that might help kind of bridge some of those perceived communication issues.
It also would be nice if they had standing to discuss whatever comes up in these meetings too.
Tell you what,
They can come back with their idea to give to us.
After today's meeting, I wouldn't mind going to the tourism meeting.
Excuse me.
After today's meeting, I wouldn't mind going to the tourism meeting.
And I think those are, at least the planning meetings are public when it comes to planning for Halloween Town, and they do host at least a couple of them prior to Halloween Town each year.
So Dana, like, I know like down number 7 is Great Coast Park. Campbell Park.
You know, I might have to.
No. I mean,
Okay.
what I'm saying, we've been doing that every time.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not real big on going to other meetings, but. You know, if I only had to go to a meeting once every 3 months or
Yeah,
5 months. I think that's really a great idea. If it fit my schedule, I mean, there's I put other things. This is
Right.
maybe about the 3rd priority in my life or 4th, but. I think that's a great idea.
I think there's enough of us. I think that we could, you know, each kind of, oh, I know that I'll be a little bit more free this month. I'll take it this month. And we can look forward to the meetings for the month at each month if you guys would like to and be like, okay, who's signing up for this month's meetings?
Well, they do,
Or maybe
well,
we can just share it as well, because I know that I frequently go to the city council
Mhm.
meetings on Zoom or maybe in person. Or the planning commission meetings. So instead of, so I could bring a report, you know, whenever I go there, and instead of having somebody have to do that.
Mhm.
What about something like that? So if he's always going to the planning commission meeting, he can add to that and I'll add and city council.
Yes, I like that, but also I feel like I would hate to put a burden always on one person, like say something comes up.
I'm
Yeah.
saying everybody, yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. If you guys go to the planning commission meeting, and I've gone to 2 of the city council meetings that month. Then we can talk about it at a certain time at our meeting, instead of having just, okay, you are gonna be liaison and you're gonna be the liaison.
Well, no, so we'll split it all up, right? And so,
Sounds
yes, so I just wanna, absolutely, ever evolving, each person can kind of say, okay, well, this month I know for sure I'm free at this time. I'm going to go to these meetings and report back. But it doesn't have to necessarily be the same person every single month so that the burden is not all on one person. And then to say, oh, this month I wasn't able to because I was sick or I had vacation planned or whatever, that we're ensuring that at least one person is going.
So, or Melissa, I guess Dana probably knows this too. So. Are all these meetings, they're on a regular schedule like ours?
Usually they can fluctuate sometimes depending on circumstances, but they're all always listed on.
So what maybe, since Dana, this is your idea, and I think it's a good idea, maybe you could get with Melissa. You know, bring a schedule of when all the events are, and we can kind of look at them and say, yeah, I could, you know, I'm free on, there's certain days that
Yeah.
I'm always.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is like for each of our meetings that we can spend 5 minutes going over what dates and times are the upcoming city council and planning commission meetings. And we can say, okay, I'll take that one this month. And then at the meeting, we bring our whatever we have to say. Because that way we're not necessarily having to plan out 6 to 12 months in advance. It's just kind of 30 days at a time. We'll know, you know, I think at a month in advance, we're gonna have pretty set days and times for those meetings. And we'll have a better understanding of who's free.
Actually work out to about 4 meetings per person per year.
Yeah. Does that
You
sound?
Go to 6 and I'll go to 2.
Well,
Don't like to go to meetings.
I'll go to 6 of the regular sessions. You go to the planning because those go, you guys look.
Right.
Well,
No.
No, I think we'd like to have one at each of the meetings, because sometimes things come up, you know, parts of discussions come up that maybe weren't detailed out on the agenda, or items that are on the agenda we don't maybe recognize also, pertain to parks and trails. And really, this is just to improve transparency, improve that communication Right. and collaboration 100%. And so, do you have a list of this between now and our next meeting,
It's on the
on
website.
the website?
The city council is always the first and third Wednesday.
Okay,
Keep in mind, there's two meetings. There's a 2 o'clock afternoon session and then also a 7 o'clock evening session. Planning commission is the second Tuesday. I would say also keep in mind, it's not rare for those to go 4+ hours, so.
You can also review it on, well, I guess, yeah, you need to do that.
You can always get up and walk out also.
right,
No,
Bring a pillow.
I'm usually free every evening, so, so that.
I think somebody just said too. Say if you're determined to have somebody there, that's great, but there might be a 4 or 5 hour meeting where nothing relating to parks is mentioned, so. Just keep that in mind that particularly the planning commission, there might not be.
Or it might be mentioned at the 5th hour.
Yeah, sure.
That you're asleep.
I'm gonna wait till you leave. Because that's okay, let's talk about ours.
and it's appropriate to say, I was going to attend this meeting and I reviewed the agenda and there was absolutely nothing for us, but I just thought it would be a great idea to improve communication. So,
I could occasionally do the first week, but Watershed Council has their meetings on Wednesday night.
you said that the list is on the city of St. Helens website.
And also, Brandon, what about, you think it'd be better for us to go to the work session or the regular session?
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it just depends, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's never any decisions made at a work session, but generally that's where a lot of the discussion takes place.
Oh, man. Work sessions during the middle of the day, the city council meetings at 1:00.
Sorry, 2, you say?
So here we have, let's see, today is the 10th, so we have our Parks and Trails meeting going on right now. The next meeting would be the library board, and I don't know if you guys.
We got our own kids on.
So,
That's Melissa.
uh,
So I didn't need a point.
So then the next meeting would be tomorrow, 6 p.m., the planning commission meeting.
Obviously.
So put you to sleep.
Tuesday, 7-Eleven. Is there anyone who would like to volunteer to? We can look at their agenda too. And so. Here we have. Minutes, conditional use permit. At the 1955 Old Portland Road, architectural review for the intersection of First Street and St. Helens Street. Now that will impact. That's right over here, right, where we're,
It's all dug up.
yeah. And then site review for 795 South Columbia River Highway, sensitive lands permit at 2760 Columbia Boulevard. Accessory structure at 330 Tualatin Street. And then the planning department activity report and architectural standards. So this might be a good one for us to attend. And so is there anyone who would like to volunteer to go to tomorrow's 6 p.m. meeting for the planning department?
Yeah, but it doesn't work for me because the Scappoose Bay Marine Advisory Board meets tomorrow night.
Okay,
I had 3 meetings in a row every night.
I'll go.
you will go.
Yeah.
Okay,
You need to sign up for more than.
For a month.
I think if you're that tired, you just went from it.
Yeah.
all right, so we'll put you down to attend
Only
to
3/4 retired.
that one. And then the next meeting that we have would be, okay, so then 7/19 are the city council meetings. at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. and the agendas are not online.
Well, I would go to the one at 7 p.m. So
And
then,
what day, what day did you say that was?
Well, I can't
That's
go.
Wednesday.
A Wednesday, I could go to the evening one.
Yeah.
Are you?
Wednesday, 7/19.
And just keep in mind if.
That's a week from this week.
This week.
No, it's next week. It's a week.
If anybody's involved with the fair, that's the opening day of the fair too, so just be aware of that.
Well, tomorrow is
The 19th.
the 19th, is the opening day of the fair. Okay.
18th, city council day is also the.
Yes, that's true. You'll be, you'll only have 3 months for the year.
I like her idea.
The library closes this week, but
I have a client that I wouldn't be able to guarantee.
Inspire weekends.
But I would be able to do later.
And it could, for the STV bike rides coming up.
Yeah.
That's Saturday.
It's coming Saturday. So,
But I could, if you're unable to attend or if you have to leave. Attending,
literally don't.
you can text me.
Would be faster to go.
And then, I'm usually done at my studio by 7:30, but if I know in enough time in advance, I can schedule that out as well, which is part of the reason I kind of wanted this, where I was like, okay, I want to be able to schedule before my calendar.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, David. My only thinking is,
Thanks.
you know, I definitely think going to the city council meetings would be really important.
Mhm.
But, I mean, I'm not belittling Lynn or anything here, but do we really need to go to a library meeting? Is that?
Lots of Melissa's.
You know, there's some of these things that, I can see, maybe how the planning could affect us some.
Yeah,
But she's saying city council, but,
yeah, and that's,
yeah, not library.
I trust that if there's anything parks related on the library board.
And our strategic plan.
Yeah.
I can't, in 8 years, I don't know what's gonna be talked about.
I am kind of drifting off your
No.
conversation. a little bit.
Typically stated like the planning commission and the city council meetings, because those are the two that I've noticed that they do talk about things that pertain specifically to the park that I have heard.
In the budget.
Us. Yeah.
I can
us
try to
comment
make the city council meeting on the 17th
on the 19th.
or 19th,
Okay, great. So city council at the 2 p.m. or the 7 p.m. or both?
7. I'll be, well, I'll still be at work at 2.
That's what, yeah,
Yeah.
I can go to the evening.
The council tomorrow.
It's on the 19th. It's next week.
Oh, next week.
What's your last name?
Is it next, the city council meeting? This one.
There shouldn't be much next.
Okay. What's your first name then? I
Yeah, I'll miss.
miss.
No.
The most awesome.
Dinner. 6.
Okay, so you can do the,
7 2.
which one?
8.
Um,
Sure.
you can do the 7, kind of 7 p.m. one.
Yeah.
I'll try to do the session then.
At 2 p.m.
I'll try to do.
Okay, great. And that would be fantastic. And
The
then,
one for the first of next
We're
month.
going there and just be a fly on the wall, right?
yes, just fly on the wall, take notes if you want to, but if there's things that, are important for us to discuss or, be aware of.
I'm gonna be the one executed. They're gonna be, oh, park mission, we heard you talking about Halloween, Hill.
Oh, excuse me.
And then
Sorry, Jake.
the next one, let's look at my calendar.
Sacrificial lamb.
The city council meeting first of next month.
Okay, yeah, so the city council meeting to August 2nd, so the 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. are both.
I'll commit to the evening one, but I'll see.
Yeah, that's what I was
I'll
saying.
see if I can do the earlier one, but there's.
I might commit to what's the date on the late one?
8/2.
I know I can do the late.
Yeah, I could, but
You know you do, so
Yeah.
that's what me, I know I can do the late one too.
I can't do the 7/19 because I'm out at the fairgrounds that week, so
Okay.
I can't be there.
So anybody else available to do the 2 p.m. on August 2nd?
I'll be in Montana.
I may be able to, I mean, I can try, but I won't know until it gets closer.
I might be able to do the 2 p.m. one because I'm on vacation that day. So I'll do the 2 p.m. And then the 7 p.m. Who did they say was available? The 7 p.m. one?
Me,
You?
yeah.
For the first.
And you were on the 19th at 7.
The last one is the bottom of the calendar, isn't it?
Thank you so much, you guys. That's really rad. I appreciate you. Please.
So can I ask you-
Oh, okay. Have fun. Would you be able to, if you're not going to be able to meet, but you feel that there's something that is important to share, can you send me an email? Well, or give me a holler.
Give you a holler.
Okay, great. Give me a holler.
Help us out here. Snake River.
I want to ask you to email me, but at least call me. Okay, so let's move on then, to old business. And thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you and all the effort you guys do, and this is really great. I love this commission. Okay. Citizens Day debrief. I thought we had a wonderful time. Sadly disappointed that we didn't have Brandon fun facts from last year.
What?
For next year.
We get some updated ones.
You have to make your own fun facts. I try.
But we had so many people sign up on our volunteer sign up list. That was really great. The conversations we had were fantastic. We had a great turnout of volunteers. And then we discussed for next year having the Watershed Council and the Parks and Trails Commission have their booths right next to each other so that we can kind of share volunteers and also pass information back and forth. So I thought that was really great.
We discussed going early to get all the free stuff to get to.
Yeah.
And then we can give it out at our.
Yes.
Good thinking.
And if we have both of them together, I've got like some potted ferns that, that we could bring some plants to, liven it up a little bit.
Absolutely. I would love to definitely next year because the presentation that you had for our urban trail, I mean, it brought in a lot of traffic. People really stopped and read through and they asked a lot of questions. It was really, really nice. So I'd love to see a little bit more interactive stuff next year, have some more information for the parks. I'll work on some for my parks for next year, I think.
Great. I mean, I didn't think about it till it was too late. It'd be great if we could have that parks brochure
Yeah.
that we had a few years ago that, I don't know if we have any more, if there had to be another printing.
Well, yeah,
There is a
Wasn't there a bunch of them?
there.
the
Not
park
sure.
brochures.
A lot, David.
So maybe we can work on updating the parks brochure this year so that we can have some updated information for next year. I think that'd be great. Do you guys have any other comments or anything you'd like to add or talk about from this year's city citizens in the day in the park? I
I
thought
needed more hamburgers and hot
they
dogs.
ran out. I was smelling it all day.
Hamburger or a hot dog.
They were cooking them as fast as they could go.
4 or 5 minutes for one or the other.
Sooner, I know.
All right, moving on, urban trail.
I hope this is the last time I talk for a while. But it probably won't be right when. So the Urban Trail Subcommittee is Dana, Lynn, Howard and myself. And before that, we had Lisa and we had Carmen who departed us. So this has been like a 4-year ordeal. I think I do see some light at the end of the tunnel. So last time I talked about this, the subcommittee, we wanted to start this summer and fall marking the trail. Well, if I say anything that you guys that you don't agree with, correct me or say afterwards, hey, I don't agree with that. So at Citizens Day in the Park, it was really a great opportunity to get to talk to some people because it's just tough to get people pinned down and they couldn't get away from me there, So I talked to, John Walsh and I've talked to John probably numerous times about the trail and he's always been very, very supportive of the trail. And I talked to Jennifer Dimshow there and Jennifer is a planner. And so she says, yeah, concept, I agree with the urban trail, but she says, really, I have to see a plan before I can say I really agree with it. I talked to the mayor and the mayor is just absolutely enthusiastic. He says, you know, we're gonna make this happen. So, you know, if the mayor and John's behind it, I think there's a good chance it's going to happen. Now, with all that said, it's always been a timing issue. So I didn't bring any extra of these for Brian, but this is the third edition. But we're gonna be working on a fourth edition here pretty soon.
The original is a collector's item now.
I don't even know if I have it. It's probably somewhere in my closet down at the bottom of the stack of papers about that high. So where was I? I lost my train of thought there, Scott. You made me lose. Oh, man. So,
Planning for this upcoming fall, summer and fall.
Yeah,
to make
so-
markings.
things have changed since we've done these things. So this was the last one we made, this maps. I don't think this is going to change any, the first part of it. I just think really the map is going to change with it. So some things that have changed is one, you know, Columbia View Park's going to be built. And John and Jennifer and the mayor say that's going to be done by next fall. Okay. So the start of the trail, we always was gonna have back behind the courthouse, but probably a more logical place to start the trail is at the turnaround. Now, obviously, Jennifer and the planning commission and everyone has to do that. So I think that would be a more logical place to start it. And so the basic outline of the trail here would still be the same. The other thing that's really made a difference too is at the bottom of Tualatin. Yeah. At the bottom of Tualatin Stairs, which I've been up many times, the city is extending that. And they're also making a
Park.
yeah, they're making what they call a pedestrian plaza. And I haven't really researched that, but I got the opinion it was gonna be kind of a round plaza with seats and maybe information. So that's kind of a cool deal. And then in addition to that, and Howard's known about this forever. Where are we at here? Where's the cliff? Where is this? Oh, where are we at here? I lost track. So at the bottom of, this is when I lost track. So at the bottom of Tualatin Stairs here, where the circle right here represents the pedestrian plaza. There's going to be a trail that Howard is called the Bluff Trail. And I don't know if the city calls it that, but if I start referring to the Bluff Trail, this is the Bluff Trail. And over the other one is the Cliff Trail that goes, you know, up over by by Great Cliffs Park. So the Bluff Trail, the Cliffs Trail.
His bluff trail is up against the bluff out here, and then you got the.
And the Cliff Trail goes up the cliff.
Perfectly made. I wonder how that worked out that way.
So a couple things. So one, the basic outline of the trail, this red and the yellow. This is still gonna be, in my view, the trail. 2.225 miles
For the whole,
for the whole loop.
then we're gonna have like a half a trail too, right?
Well, we could have lots of different trails,
I
but
thought we talked about making it where it splits in half, so.
yeah, that was number one. That was plan one.
Okay.
That was plan one. But now we're on plan four. So. Since we're going to have a pedestrian plaza here, and we're gonna have a bluff trail, which is gonna connect up here to Knoxville Park. And we didn't talk about this I haven't talked about this with Howard or Dana or Lynn, but I think that we should incorporate that as part of the trail or a side loop of the trail. Okay, so what this whole meeting is about is, after talking to everyone, it's the timing. The timing is not right for the urban trail, and I've felt that for at least a year myself. Because until the city gets the construction done here, you know, it's that this fall, we wanted to mark all this, so it was done. That can wait till next June or July to start on. So where do I want to go here? So what we want to do, I think our next meeting is the four of us will meet with with Mohammed and Buck and say, this is kind of what our plan is. And where Jennifer's gonna have to get involved with it and everything else. And so what we talked about at the meeting was this time next year, we could start painting the markers that are on the sidewalks and the concrete. And we could also start putting in the concrete blocks. I wish Buck was here. I will not be here next meeting before I forget about it. I'm on vacation next time.
I'm on vacation too.
Yeah, I'm leaving the 11th.
I'll be driving home, so I might not be here. You can call in. From Montana while I'm driving.
We'll still have enough.
Okay, so,
Four is a quorum.
so basically what I'm saying is the timing has not been right. And I think all of us finally, hey, yeah, let's just wait till the timing's right. And so, that's kind of what our plan is. We'll meet with Buck and Mohammed.
Right now, I know a lot of people walk that trail. They walk it and then they come back, they get to the end there and then turn around and come back to the Bluff Trail. So they're just doing a giant loop right now. So maybe the timing is right.
No,
Well, the whole, you can only go one way out there. You can't get up anywhere.
Right, you just walk and turn around and come back.
Jacob. I think once the city gets through with this construction on phase one, obviously the river walk's not gonna be done. But we can still use the river walk, and once the river walk is done, it'll make this trail even immensely better. Another thing that's happened too, probably shouldn't even say this, but above the cliff. West Street's cliff, we've met a lot of resistance for a safety barrier there, so we moved the trail, on the other side of the street. I know that the mayor and another person that lives up in that area says, maybe we really do need a safety barrier. So I think people's thinking is but regardless of that the case, people when they walk up the cliff, they're gonna be opposite the cliff. They're gonna be, if they follow instructions, they're gonna be a long ways away from it.
Interesting. So how long did the city know all this? Because I called Casey Garrett trying to get a kiosk to be put right out here temporarily, and I was on the phone quite a bit. We went over the dimensions and this and that, and now I'm finding out I have to call him and let him know that we're not putting it on county property. Where are we gonna put that?
I don't think.
How come we didn't know about this sooner?
Well, that's the question that Scott asks every meeting.
It's communication, between Parks, City Council, planning. I mean, all you have to do, even if it's a done deal, just come and let us know about it.
We have a lot of cities with the construction out there where they decided on their own that it needed to be safety corridors and closing off extra things. The original thing like the stairs out of Mount Hill that said it was supposed to open in May, and now they will, I can't really find out when they think that the staircase coming out of Mount Hill, the overall type staircase. Gonna be open again.
Saying to call up a county commissioner,
Yeah.
start talking about all this, and I have to get back to him now because.
But Lynn, I will say this in defense of our decision to do that. Is we knew that we were gonna talk to the county first. See what their feelings were. And then it was gonna have to go to the city, and then they were gonna have to get, but I totally agree with you 100%. That I wish they had just been a little more upfront, and I've had this feeling for a long time. But it would have been nice if they just said, they didn't tell me to wait till next year, or but it would have been nice if they said, we really like the urban trail, we think it's a good concept, we think it's good for the city. But, the timing's really not right. Jerry, why don't you and the subcommittee just hold off until the fall of 2024, when we got all the construction done and we can move forward. I agree that I totally agree with Scott, I agree with Lynn, that I just don't think the city, they don't always keep us informed on things, like the pedestrian plaza, the Bluff Trail. I know Howard knew all about that. But there's some, there's a lot of things that I didn't know. I'm not down here every day listening, talking to people or anything. But anyway, Brandon, I think it'd be nice if the city, anything that dealt with parks, like we're building a trail, we're you know, we're
Building a plaza.
building a plaza, pedestrian plaza, you know, there's
What
gonna
do you
be,
guys think about it?
yeah, you know,
Have input on
yeah. See, I'm, so the next step, as far as the urban trail committee is, I think we need to meet with Buck and Mohammed. And tell them, hey, this is kind of what we're thinking. I'll have this map redone with those on it, if that's okay, with the bluff trail on it and the start. Okay, and my oldest daughters did that stuff, and so,
We'll be playing 5.
yes, I think that's
it.
4 or 5, you know, 4. I think this is only plan 3.
I think it's the 4th edition.
Yeah, it'll be the 4th edition.
And I do think it's wise to postpone some of the more solidified plans in regards to the mapping and the kiosk and the markings until all of the things that are currently in flux are completed. And then that way we don't have to worry about backpedaling. We don't have to worry about trying to move forward and then hitting roadblocks and then trying to adapt.
But we know that there's gonna be a turnaround at the park. We know that there is gonna be a pedestrian plaza. We do know that there's gonna be a bluff trail.
But until those come further to fruition, you know, there's still room for wiggle there, and I do think it's wise to
So
postpone.
Brandon, what is this situation on? So what is the situation on the pedestrian plaza and the bluff trail?
I'm not familiar with either of them.
Are they in, have they been done?
Just laughing out there.
Well, they're kind of.
Something.
Down at the end of Knob Hill, I mean, there's so much work still going on down below
Sure.
that, you know, I mean, I've actually asked Jenny last week if I could be involved at all and how the two were gonna be melded together, and I'm still getting strange answers. She's like, well, they're only gonna go right up to where their X number line was. Like, well, where exactly is the line on how the new landscaping is gonna go into our old landscaping? And nobody really wants.
So
to
is she
control.
talking about in phase 1, they're only putting in streets and infrastructure in about half of it?
I think it's streets, and I think they are actually gonna do the backside, the bluff trail is gonna be rough put in too. I don't know to what extent if this is gonna be, you know, markings on the ground, or are they actually gonna have a little paved actual dedicated, are they doing all the streets, and we'll have a new street all the way out to Plymouth and until all that area will be done, or?
If you think there's time on the agenda, we can invite her here and have her. Here.
Because I mean, some of that is, I mean, the staircase is starting to get overgrown, the trail is getting overgrown, the trail has things growing up and nobody can really think when the trail's gonna reopen. So what's the plan on how we're gonna redo what's in the park for that staircase? Nobody's. Everybody goes, oh, the city will take care of it, but it's getting more expensive all the time with the longer it's closed, because there's more and more growth in the trail because it's not getting the walking use.
So maybe the next meeting that we know for sure the majority of us will meet here, and we can invite her down to have a nice discussion. We can ask her a lot of questions. So probably not in August, but maybe in September.
I would really,
Also
Like-
sign up for the newsletter that tells you about the water. Construction.
and I mean, this is something special I'm asking for, but since, I mean, I would like to be here when Brad is here. And I will be here next time.
Okay, so we can, then we can invite him in September. Okay,
Well, then what about Jenny,
And yeah, September.
September 2? Okay.
all right. Well, thank you, Jerry. And 22 minutes left. So I would like to table the commissioner application process to the next meeting, because I feel like that's going to be quite a bit of a discussion, and we only have 20 minutes left for our time, if that's okay with everybody.
Did everybody have a chance to review that email from Lynn? She sent with
Oh, yeah, with the actual, the
number 6.
I did. Did you guys get a chance to review the resolution?
Here.
So here it's.
That's to appoint new commissioners and interview.
So it's resolution 164A, so this should also be visible on the city website, right? And so this is a resolution establishing guidelines. Yeah, for the appointment of St. Helens Board, Committee, and Commission members. And so, this was,
I think it'd be helpful to review that before the
Yes.
discussion, but it's been, it was
adopted in
adopted in
2013.
2009 and updated in 2013, so it's not.
Oh, okay.
new.
And we never.
Yeah, I'd like to review that.
Until recent.
Right, so we've recently updated our practices to meet this resolution. And so, so take some time to review that if you can. And again, it's on the website and Lynn sent it out to us. And so take some time to review that. And then if you have some discussion that you'd like to have on that for our next meeting, that way we're all on the same page and that we feel good about the process. Yeah. So, and then, I will just give a quick update for Gray Cliffs and Campbell Park. Till next meeting. Okay, so with Gray Cliffs, I don't know, Jerry, are you still on Gray Cliffs with me?
I don't know.
You resigned your assignment, then you asked me and I accepted.
Oh, yeah, so I asked Buck a little bit about whether or not the kayak launch had any progress or any plans going, and he said that he's not aware whether or not the kayak is happening or not, so that's the only update.
A big grant or something?
Yeah.
Out there.
Fishing dock and
So I talked to Jennifer about this, years ago. And this is what Jennifer Dim showed to us. She told me that the state is putting up, I want to say $200,000 just to do the permitting.
Okay,
So they just hired a guy, or they're in the process of hiring someone to put all the permitting together. And what she told me was, once the state does the permitting, that there's a high probability that that's going to happen.
okay, great.
So
Right now, we're waiting on the permitting process.
that's all I know, so I said.
Okay, perfect. Okay, other than that, there's been no other changes to the park this
Looks
last
like
year.
we'll have-
And so hopefully that continues, because that would be really fantastic. And then at Campbell Park, the irrigation was repaired, so now they can water. They were set to remove the elephant slide on July 3rd, so they did not. Yeah, they, I believe they did. I just didn't get there today to look for myself to confirm.
Gotcha, okay.
But it was,
July 3rd, that's.
yes.
Man, that's like.
I know. So sorry, but I really do feel, I mean, we discussed it before that, just due to the age of it and for safety purposes, to have that removed, and I do hope to honor it in the future, find ways to bring that history, forward, and, because it's been there for as long as I can remember. as well, so.
So
Yeah, one of them.
I'm not being,
Not down here.
I'm not being facetious here,
I vote for you.
that I haven't looked at the elephant slide in probably since last year when we went there. Yeah,
Brandon,
with Brandon. But, maybe the city could put it in their storage shed. Oh,
Who wants it?
No, I asked Buck, if there has been a decision made on what, once it gets removed, and he said no, so as far as I know, it's just being stored right now.
It's just being stored.
I think we can
it's gonna be stored. Something could maybe, it could be used for, something in.
Her reward for putting up with us.
Or
Installation or something, like, some should be done. with it.
wonderful as an art installation or something that is not physically used for children to slide on it. I think it would be, a great honor to have that remain part of the community, but it was time. It was absolutely time. Otherwise they've been
She's out, we're going to door. She would take care of it.
they've been doing a lot of tree trimming and clearing out the dead and overgrown branches, and it's just looking so nice over there. And so hopefully they make some progress on some of the benches and the seating for the fields. There has been quite a bit of decay and continued vandalism, on the seating there. But that's really the only update. I didn't make a PowerPoint today because I didn't have much to tell you on that. You're welcome. Okay, and then any action items that we have beyond, I would really love for you guys on your own time to read through beyond where we made, now that you guys all have a physical copy of the permitting. Read through so that we can get through as far as we can next time, and those of you especially who will not be here. We stopped at 8.08.080. And if you know that you're not going to be here next week, but you have opinions, comments, etc., please feel free to email me and I can bring that to the meeting and discuss it at the appropriate time as we reach those subjects. And we can wait to make any official recommendations until everybody has returned, so that we can have a really good dialogue on that, because I think that's appropriate. And so I hope to get through a grand majority of it next time, so please do review through. Please take some time to review through the application processes that was sent out. I would like to try to get through, since there's so much of it, so that we can try to make some recommendations before the end of the year. Otherwise, we're not going to be making recommendations until the start of the year.
That might be a good idea though.
Yeah, read through it, call me, email me, whatever works, that way we can discuss it. But as far as making official recommendations for changes, I hope to do that at a meeting where everybody is here in September or October. If that's okay, but this will be more just kind of review and discussion until we get there. It's such a big deal, I think, and I really appreciate your guys' time on that. That's the only action items I have, unless you guys have something else. And then staff report.
Actually have something from Buck.
Okay.
Counselor Berkeley was walking through Woodland Park and found a large cedar stump that was on fire in the disc golf area.
Yes, on the 4th of July.
It was on Wednesday, July 5th, and it looks like it had been lit the night before.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Tori went and put it out and it was extinguished, but thank you to Counselor Berkeley.
So
Yeah.
we were there on the 4th of July, and there was smoke, and the fire department came and they assessed it, and then they left.
Oh, well, it was fire.
That's right. I watched them come through. So that's a bummer. Okay. Anything else? No, that's probably the only thing. Counselor's report.
All right, a few things here. So again, just want to thank everybody that participated in Citizens Day. We also had a debrief a couple days afterwards. And one big thing that came up that involves the commission is that for next year, they maybe would like to get more help from commission members, serving food, or like I was doing, handing out plates and napkins. I guess there weren't as many volunteers this year as there has been in the past, so like me, I was there the whole time, which is fine with me, but they'd like more people so that people can get rotated out, so they would like to start getting volunteers from the community, but also see if the boards and commission members would maybe commit to a couple hours helping whatever it might be. So, and I'm not sure why it was different this year, why there were less volunteers, but that was just one idea that came up, is maybe they would start asking the commissions to volunteer some time, not just in your individual tents, but also doing things like that.
Yeah.
So that might come up next year. We've got a year before we have to worry about it, but I was looking back at some of our old minutes too. And just remembered we had talked at one time about using these meetings to turn in volunteer hours. So
Yes.
keep that in mind if that's something that you still want to do.
I was going to print some out and have some of those forms here so that we can take them when we go and return them when we come back. And so I'll try to remember to have some for our next meeting. That way you guys fill out your volunteer time and bring them back so we can submit
It's
them.
reminded me of it this week. We got an email from Caroline and she was submitting her hours. And so if we had
Update
one
that.
place where everybody could do it at the same time, that would be great.
Mm.
4th of July was busy down in Columbia View Park. 13 nights have been busy. This will be the last year with the current stage and current setup, so things will be looking a lot different come fall. The city recently announced that they received a grant to do some upgrades to the Veterans Memorial. So that is going to be, I'm not sure when it's going to begin, but that is going to include, so if you're looking at the Veterans Wall, it's kind of to the right side, so between the wall and the little gazebo there. Right now, there's just one single American flag. There's going to be the addition of 7 service flags, so to represent all the different branches of the military, and then have a pedestal down below each flag with information about each. A medallion, I think, representing each of the branches of the military, so. I've seen the design, it looks nice. If I can get a copy of it, I'll bring it so you guys can take a look at it. The only potential thing that we're dealing with is it's not going to be exactly symmetrical, because with the addition of the Space Force, now there's 7 branches of the military, so they wanted the American flag centered. It looks good, so
Now, can we plan like a dedication ceremony?
I'm sure there will be. I think the hope is to have that done by Veterans Day, so I'm assuming. Yeah, I'm assuming that's where that will take place if they're able to get it done in time. I also, it is on the planning commission's agenda for tomorrow is the First Street Gateway, so Dan, it's gonna be real close to your shop. But you've seen they're redoing this intersection down here, hopefully gonna make it more pedestrian friendly, make it a safer intersection. But part of that also is a planned decorative gateway or arch that's gonna go across First Street. So it is in the packet for the planning commission. You can kind of see a rough design of what that's may look like. So they're gonna be discussing that tomorrow. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is at our last city council meeting, there was an IGA approved with the Scappoose Bay Watershed Council. This is something that's been going on for a number of years, but it was just approved again for another year. And it includes here, it lists here, they'll monitor, survey, map locations of weeds, invasive species, do some spraying, things like that. But it talks about here working with city staff, volunteer groups, friends of groups, and there's no mention in this agreement to the Parks and Trails Commission. So that was my request, is that, I know this came up last year too, is that the Parks and Trails Commission be included in this discussion with this IGA each year. So
What was the monetary value of that?
this one is $3,000. And it's like I say, it's for another year. So this one says it will terminate June 30th, 2024. So just so you're aware that happened. I think that's all I've got. You guys have anything that you want me to take back, or anything you would like me to know?
The only thing, Brandon, is the thing that, that we've said a lot is, if something's happening that pertains to the parks, it would be nice if we knew about it.
If we were included with,
I think I said that same thing when I was sitting over there 2 years ago.
Okay.
And we've been hearing that for a while, so.
Well, it just sounds like that intergovernmental agency thing with the watershed council is just something that they're gonna renew every year, so.
Which I think is fine, but like I say, I would like this group to be a part of that discussion.
Because we work so closely together.
But they mentioned working with city staff, and they mentioned volunteers, which you guys are volunteers. I think it should specifically mention this commission.
Great.
who's gonna be the liaison? Because wasn't it Emily who was doing it before?
Yeah, this one I don't believe mentions any specific names, but
They have a new girl named Alex that's carrying on Emily's position.
Anything else for our counselor? Thank you so
thank
much.
you guys for all you do, and welcome, Brian.
Guess you've been school kids now.
All right, so we have about 5 more minutes for discussion items.
Got Just 2 minutes worth of that.
2 minutes.
Brandon made a mention about Nob Hill, we gave our 6-month yearly report to the cities. So regular time, me and Caroline donated 92 hours in 6 months to the park. With our work party, we had 31 hours, man hours of that work party that we had in the spring, which for 100, which gives 123 hours total volunteer time in 6 months to the Nob Hill Nature Park. The Fifth Street right of way trail, regular time, me and Caroline donated 21 hours to the Fifth Street right of way trail that comes off of Nob Hill. The work party donated 11 for a total of 32 hours of volunteer time in there. And then the Fifth Street right of way trail actually did another 3 hours just a week ago because the willows and everything were so overgrown that it was hard to walk on the boardwalk. So I went through there and spent 3 hours and cut everything back, and then actually went back and redid the boardwalk again. You know, I do that pretty frequently. So a lot of that work is always, a lot of the trails in there are just really maintained by the volunteers. You know, we're gonna have another work party in September on the Fifth Street right away. I can't remember the exact date. Is it the 9th or something?
I think it's in the email.
So there's that. The other one would be too, as we get closer with the urban trail going, that probably we're gonna have to try to get a few more volunteers going for that, because it would have been unacceptable if the urban trail was there for to have been overgrown as much as it was. You know, so we're gonna have to think about that if we can.
September 9th from 1 to 3 will be the Fifth Street.
Yeah, we're gonna do some planting in there, so. That's it, okay, and then I had one other thing, since we're the Parks and Trails Commission. And that is, has anybody walked the trail, you know, where Grace's Annex used to be at the very end of the street?
Mhm.
They have a building at the very end. And then as part of their detour and stuff, they built a trail that goes from there over in front of the dockside. What I'm seeing is the wall on the side of that building is bowing so badly now. I am exceptionally concerned about pedestrians on that trail. And anybody walking on the sidewalk in front of that building. That if that wall was to blow out, it could send small bits and pieces so far, it's a hazard. So how do we get something done about a hazardous situation? The wall on that building is bowed out almost 3 feet, 4 feet. The roof, you can see daylight through it. And we have a walking trail, which is within striking distance of that. So either something needs to be done or that trail should be closed because it's unsafe. You know, so I just thought I'd point that out to you guys.
I agree, I've walked that a number of times.
What?
I agree with you, I've walked that a number of times.
Yeah.
I've not
I mean, there's a bunch of bushes right now that have grown up, but if you stand there on the public sidewalk and look down that building, that thing to me looks like it's moving more all the time.
Is that something that we would bring up to Buck or Mohammed?
Probably, or the safety person in St.
Or
Helens.
His property.
Yeah. You know, I mean, or is that building getting condemned or something needs to be done because that's a very unsafe building.
In regards to the safety of the pedestrians and the walkway, I think that's something that we should. Would you be willing to email Buck and Mohammed and say, hey, I noticed this, can you assess it and like get back to me?
Yeah. I don't know that I hear off and on that the city has a safety inspector. I know we've had him in Nob Hill a few times complaining about the gravel that was on the steps. Wouldn't he be the appropriate person to say something about that?
Enforcement, I don't know if it designated.
There's a designated guy with the city for safety issues. He came out, put up signs that said caution poison oak.
I know in the Public Works Department, Ethan Sterling works a lot with safety stuff, but he isn't, again, works under Mohammed, so I would say that's probably good.
That's up to Mohammed.
To the Public Works Director.
Yeah.
And
So would you mind starting there?
Okay, I'll give Mohammed a call.
Great.
It's just a hazard, it just, you know, it's scary. And we had the Muckle building a few years ago, how bricks fall off on the sidewalk.
Right.
That's it.
That had a comment.
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know I'm not gonna be here for the meeting in August. And I'm on vacation. We had t-shirts, huh?
I think we should, if everybody else shows up, we should have at least 4, yeah.
I just won't be here in October.
Okay.
That way.
So Tina Curry organized T-shirt sales for Parket. And so she had T-shirts and hoodies, and I bought $155 worth myself. I don't know, who else bought any of our T-shirts? Okay. And so I just wanted to make a suggestion that Civic Pride does not have a sign that points to where it even is in the city. And so I'd like to have two signs for that, one at the park and one on the road that goes to the park. In other words, they have a sign that says swimming pool. So if you could put a sign like that underneath that, just to start, you know.
Have we
And then
received the funds from those sales?
they're there. What do you mean? They're going into parks? For parks?
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking, is
Yeah.
if they've made it already to
Yeah.
a fund that we
I
can
talked
pull
to Tina
from,
about that.
for
Yes,
this, okay, perfect.
yes. And so, and then what I was gonna suggest is I had 3 signs stolen from Dalton Preserve. And in the last 2 years, I'd like to replace those signs. And so I'd like 2 signs to be made for that. So that's just a start, because I think the signs are only about $35.
Okay.
So,
I don't have a problem with that.
We need to make a.
anybody object to that at all? Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, when branding and when they did the branding and wayfinding, they did identify all our parks. You would have thought they would have put a sign there for
Right.
Civic Pride.
So they don't use it.
Most people don't even know City Pride or City.
I go through there.
Yeah,
you walk through it. Yeah, I went to IGA or something, you walk through it, no one stops there and.
Big sign vandalism is probably.
Yeah.
We have a sign there at the BMX park that indicated that. That it was a BMX track and such, and that's been gone, it hasn't been. It's been a couple of years, I've talked, you know, a couple of times.
Yeah, well,
Now that we've got somebody just dedicated parks, you know, that's a start.
They're awesome.
Yes, I think that's great.
You just build them out of concrete under it, I guess, or something, they can't remove them. Apparently, there's a lot of money in that metal.
All right, do we have any other,
Park's good.
any other discussion items before we adjourn? No, okay,
Wrong, 6:01.
6:01, hey, you were more than 2 minutes, okay, meeting adjourned.
you said. Or you went all that.
Phil Scott, 5 minutes, and it was 5 minutes already.
Mine.
Oh, I hate words, yeah.
Well, maybe they'll start communicating with us a little more.
Well,